I'm Elizabeth McNulty. I am the Kentucky Brownfield Education and Outreach Coordinator, and I am joined today with Eric Eisminger. He's the Kentucky State Brownfield Coordinator. We are here to just be live and in person and to give you some updates and announcements on the Brownfield Grant, EPA Brownfield Grant announcement, guidelines, and what's going on there and that. So we have a short presentation for you today, and then I'm going to switch over. We have developed a grant writing resource page, so I'm going to tour you through that and those resources. And then we also will have a nice question and answer session towards the end. So as we go through this presentation today, feel free to go ahead and submit any questions as we go along. You can do that by typing them in the chat box. We will reserve all those questions to the end and answer those. And right now, all of you all are muted, but at that time, when we do question and answer, if you would like for us to unmute you and you can speak, we can do that as well. So I'll give you some more instructions when that time comes. But right now, Eric and I are going to kind of sign off, and we're going to do this presentation, and then we will join you back for the question and answer part. All right, so as a welcome, I want to start you with an update of the EPA grant information and follow it with a tour. As I said, I want to begin, of course, with a disclaimer. We like to say this at the Kentucky Brownfield Program. We strive to present accurate and correct information. We know that anything written in the official EPA grant lines, that will supersede any information we present here today. So following the guidelines will result in the strongest proposals, and that is what we want you to have. So just know that going forward. We encourage you to read the guidelines again and again and again, and take that advice over anything we may say. So at the Kentucky Brownfield Program, here's the staff contacts that we currently have on our team. We have a few staff members that are joining us on the webinar today who are available to answer questions you may have about brownfields and the grant process. I will hand the presentation over now to Eric. He's the State Brownfield Coordinator, and he will go over the Brownfield Program services that are available to you.
All right, good afternoon. As you can see right there, we have a summary of what our program services are, and I'm going to cover a little bit about each one of these topics. The first one's grant writing assistance, education, and review. Obviously, that's why we're here today. We're starting this process that hopefully you follow through this grant season. We'll be talking a great deal about that today, so I don't want to get too much into that. Elizabeth has a lot of information regarding those, but let me make this one statement about the grant writing assistance, education, and review being a big part. I'm not aware of too many government programs where you have this much support in something you're trying to accomplish. The grant that you are applying for is obviously your grant, but you are nowhere near being alone in the endeavor of submitting this application. We would love for you all to realize you have a team of people that's backing you up. You'll hear more about that entirety today as Elizabeth goes through it, but there's multiple agencies and multiple groups that are here to help you. And obviously, we in Kentucky Brownfield Program are one of the first steps. We also offer free assessment services. Many of you all should be aware that a phase 1 environmental site assessment or an all appropriate inquiry, that's what EPA will call that, those must be done before you take possession of a property. Now, legally, it does not have to be done, but we would like for you to understand that this should be a requirement because it is the first step in any sort of liability protection from past contamination. If you or your group gets a piece of property without a phase one, at that point you are pretty much stuck with whatever contamination could be there is now yours, and at that point you own it. So you should look at these phase one assessments as if they're requirements, and they should be, but legally they're not. So we offer those free assessment services in-house. We now have our staff trained, Elizabeth and myself, so we can do them directly, which streamlines the process. If we are too busy or have a lot going on, we can still put out a request for proposal and have a consultant do that for you. It have to be a government, quasi-government, or a nonprofit, and that needs to be a 501c3 nonprofit. If you fit into one of those three categories, we can offer free assessment services. On the liability management guidance, in effect, it's risk management. We'll help you through this process of maybe taking possession of property that has some contamination or issues there. We've got multiple people in multiple programs. Sometimes we involve the Superfund branch in the Division of Waste Management. They can help with the tax incentive program. They help with the 415 program. And Elizabeth and I are here to get you the help you need. So you can contact us directly, and we can put you in contact with the people that you need to speak to. But we will also have contact information for some of those folks as well if you choose to contact them directly. Okay. Funding, I'm sorry, the site project assistance and information. If you have questions about sites, guidance issues on how to move forward, if you need help with visioning of what you can do with that, those are services that we can provide you. We're more than willing to help you. Again, please consider us part of your team. We are not here to take over your project or to run it, but we certainly are here to assist you in getting your project off the ground. The funding identification, we can help you understand the different places that you can go. Elizabeth especially is really good at that because she's aware of funding sources even outside of the federal government and the Brownfield programs. So you might be able to look at other agencies for different types of creative funding. So we're more than willing to help you find that information as well. We do have a revolving loan fund. We receive supplemental funds. We don't have those currently, but we should by this fall, and we hope to have our revolving loan fund back up in operation probably the first of next year. We can use that for multiple things. One of our goals, hopefully, is to allow some loans for small projects that may not otherwise get federal funding. And we're kind of thinking specifically along the lines of lead and asbestos, or lead-based paint and asbestos. So that is something that we want to remind you that is coming down the road. Also, Brownfield projects, we have tax incentives. That application is done through our Superfund branch, but we do have tax incentives for people that do cleanups on their own. There's a list of requirements. I want to give you two of them just as an example. If you want the tax incentives, the release or contamination must have occurred before you acquired the property, and you must have had a phase one environmental site assessment. So again, that's another program that is not available if you don't get that phase one done before you take possession of the property. Again, end use visioning, I mentioned a little bit of that, but we can come in and kind of help you come up with a purpose for a piece of property. We can be creative thinking. Not only us, please remember to include the public in your end use visioning. A lot of people have been very successful in going to the public and asking for ideas. Some ideas can be crazy and ridiculous, but some ideas can be wonderful. And several projects have actually ended up going with what someone from the public visioned about a particular piece of property. I was out of order. Here's the Cleaner Commonwealth Fund. I mentioned that already. And then the program oversight through our Superfund team. They're a little more of the technical assistance than what we provide. They can actually look at data and risk assessment amounts in terms of contamination, background levels, what you are allowed to leave on the project if you want to totally develop it, what you can leave if you want to do other options, say capping off a contaminant and moving forward with a cap in place. So we've got a lot of services. Again, I just really want to encourage you all to reach out, take advantage of why we're here. We truly are here to assist you. We aren't regulatory in any way. It's a fun job because we get to help people and hopefully help you get money to complete your projects. So it's a brief overview of our services. I will turn this back to Elizabeth now to carry on with the rest of our presentation.
Okay, we wanted to take a moment to also tell you about our regional assistance resources that we have. TAB actually stands for Technical Assistance to Brownfields, or some also refer to it as a Targeted Assistance to Brownfields. We have a regional team that provides a variety of services that are free to you and your community. A lot of them are similar to what Eric just said that we did here at the state. This is to ensure that you have the most assistance that you need available, both state, regional, and federal. Our TAB coordinator for Kentucky is the New Jersey Institute of Technology, or NJIT for short. Past grantees may recall the grant workshop intensive that we did last year with NJIT and EPA staff. We reviewed grant applications and we gave one-on-one feedback. That was an in-person example of what is available to you every year from the Kentucky team, from NJIT, and from EPA staff. I would like to note, though, that EPA staff cannot be as involved with grant proposals after the official guidelines are released. But the state and regional assistance is available to you at all times. I would be lacking in my job duties if I did not just give you a brief overview of brownfields, what they are, and the actual program. I know some of you are veterans in this and some of you may be new, so I will actually just give you a general definition of what a brownfield is. Just in case you're not familiar with what the program is about. So a brownfield is any property that is abandoned or underutilized due to real or perceived contamination. Listed here are some general examples of what may qualify as a brownfield in your community. Again, I will emphasize, I think Eric mentioned, if you have specific site questions and you are wondering if they're eligible for our program, we urge you to contact us and just talk through those specifics. We get those questions all the time, and there are a lot of things in this program we can get really creative with to make them eligible, and there's a lot of really interesting situations that happen. So just for specific things, give us a call and we can see what we can work out with you to make you eligible. So I also wanted to go over the types of brownfield grants, the grants that are available for this year, fiscal year 2021. We have the assessment grants that include the community-wide, site-specific, and coalition grants. EPA on their website goes into more detail on all of these grants, but I'll give you like just a general definition. The assessment grants provide funding for brownfield inventories, for planning, for environmental assessments, and for community outreach. This is probably our most popular grant application proposal that people submit. It is the one that we receive a lot of funding for in Kentucky and have in the past. I will say that we have a lot of smaller communities that are interested in doing these assessment grants, and a lot of those communities really get dinged when it comes to capacity. That's a section in the grant where you have to basically establish that you are able to manage the grant and be successful. If you feel like you have a really good proposal idea for putting together an assessment grant, but you don't feel like your community has the capacity, I would urge you to talk to us about the coalition grant, because the coalition grants is what makes that area stronger. You basically team together with other nonprofits or eligible entities in your community to make that proposal stronger, because you're all teaming together to manage one grant. So I just wanted to give that as a side note for those communities, especially those who have tried before to get an EPA grant and have not succeeded. These are very competitive national grants. So there are little tips and tricks that we've learned at the state as we've gone along through the years that we know we can make your proposal stronger. So if you're a small community and this is one thing that one specific grant you're looking at, or even the cleanup or the multi-purpose, going the coalition route may be the way for you to go. We also have our cleanup grants, and they provide funding to carry out a cleanup activity at brownfield sites owned by the applicant. So with each of these different grant applications, there are separate guidelines. So when you get into the cleanup application, you're going to get into specific requirements that the assessment application will not have. And you get into multi-purpose, it's going to have different requirements than the cleanup grant. The cleanup grant specifically, if you look at the brownfield process as far as grant writing goes, most communities start with assessment. They identify really good key properties, and then they go forward and try to get a cleanup grant for that specific property. We've had many communities be very successful in multiple grant applications going this route. So with the cleanup grant, you as a community or an entity, an eligible entity, need to take possession of the property before you submit your grant application. You also have to do some forms of community engagement before the application. And so there's deadlines on some of these. We can go through specifics with you on your project. Like I said, I'm going to just reiterate that over and over, just because we are familiar with those little caveats that you may miss. When these guidelines come out, they are really long and they are really in-depth, and although we encourage you to read them and read them and read them, it may be cumbersome to go through those applications. So with us having gone through these applications with communities year after year after year, we, like I said, have picked up on really interesting tips and tricks, and we can help you navigate this process a lot easier. The multi-purpose is available this year. There's a star beside it because I wanted to mention at this time that the multi-purpose and the revolving loan fund grants, they switch years. So the multi-purpose will be this year, but not the revolving loan fund, and then next year, vice versa. The multi-purpose is a funding that basically it includes, it's what it says. It includes aspects of the assessment, and it also includes aspects of the cleanup grant. You're able to conduct a wide range of eligible assessment and cleanup activities on one or more brownfield sites in an area. This grant actually was introduced just not last year because we didn't have it available, but the year before that. It's a new grant. A lot of people are kind of squeamish to apply for it. We did not have any applicants that I know of in Kentucky the last grant cycle period. But if you are a community who's basically been through the brownfield process, or you're set up for multiple brownfield sites and you have a cleanup site specifically you're looking at, this may be something that you want to go for. It does have specific criteria, which I'll go into that a little bit further, but consider this for your community if it's something that you have a lot of properties already identified as brownfields. We also have our environmental workforce development and job training grants. These grants provide environmental training for residents impacted by brownfield sites in their community. So there's a lot of, so think of this like nonprofits are eligible entities. And if you are a community or a nonprofit that would like to provide job training, like there's just, jobs is something that's not happening in your community and you need some sort of career aspect. Environmental jobs is something that is always needed. So you can be really creative with this, and this gives you a platform to train people in your community to help them be more empowered. I know, especially with the way our economy is right now and what we've been through the last few months, this grant may be very popular and much needed in your community right now. So definitely look into. This is one that's open for solicitation, so I'll go over that here in a little bit. Another one that's open right now as well is our Technical Assistance Training and Research Grant. And I'll go into more detail with that on a different slide. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of the grant timeline. This is basically similar, like every year there's a similar guideline timeline that this follows. We are a little early this year. EPA is redoing a lot of their website, and I think grants.gov may be down for a little bit in the fall, later fall. So we're trying to get in front of that work, and the guidelines are actually going to be released a lot earlier. They're usually like September, October is when we start seeing guidelines for these applications. But this year we are going to see them by late August. It looks like applications are probably going to be due by the end of October. Whenever the guidelines are released, you're going to have 60-day window to turn it around and get it submitted. So we anticipate the announcement of the awards in spring of 2021. This year they came out kind of early, mid-May. So it's usually early May, mid-May, around June. So expect it around that time to hear if you have been awarded your application and grant award money. So here's what I was talking about earlier to keep in mind with the multi-purpose grant. If you apply for the multi-purpose grant, you're not eligible to also apply for an assessment or cleanup grant in the same competition year. Another really awesome thing that we're all celebrating about at the state and nationally in different programs is that we no longer need to separate the hazardous and petroleum cleanup and the funding requests. So that's kind of a really nice announcement that EPA recently made. So these grant funding applications, you don't have to separate your information and your data for that. And once you are awarded, you will not have to keep separate data for the hazardous and petroleum projects that you do as well. It's all going to be in this just one lump funding, which is very nice. Also, as I mentioned before, there is no revolving loan fund grant this year, but there will be a solicitation for revolving loan fund supplemental money in the spring of 2021. So if you are a community that already has a revolving loan fund, you can do an application for additional money then. I wanted to put a little note about COVID-19 here at the end. We have seen that this has definitely had an impact on our communities, and The fiscal year 21 grant guidelines may require applicants to plan for potential continuation of pandemic conditions by offering alternative public participation plans that account for virtual meetings and social distancing options. So all of these grant applications have a community engagement and partnership portion. Because of what has happened over the last few months, a lot of the grants that have been awarded, we've had to get really creative on how we're engaging the public on these projects. So I wanted to just give you a heads up to already be thinking ahead in your application how you're going to address if this continues to reach that public engagement portion, and what creative ways you're going to do that. We have resources that are coming out that are from really great organizations and even from our TAB assistance providers, and we're even thinking of doing some things at the state here to give you some creative ideas of how to meet this requirement in this way. So as those resources come out, I will be posting those on the website I'm going to show you today under our community engagement section. So please look for that when you get to that section. If the guidelines come out and they specifically say this is something we need to address, and I'm probably thinking we will, look under that section on our website for those resources to get those ideas. We really believe in not reinventing the wheel here and making this application process as easy as possible. I will say also, think about gathering data on the impacts that COVID has had on your community. And if you can get specific numbers on job losses, on economic downturn, health impacts, those are all going to be good things that you can address, and that would be pertinent to the application this year. All right, as I said before, we have 2 grant applications that are open right now. We have the Technical Assistance Training and Research Grant. It is specifically talking about supporting equitable development and environmental justice in brownfield communities. The guidelines are posted and the applications are due by September 21st. Like it says, it's one grant that is $600,000. It's 3-year project period, and it requires national support. So you give national support on this subject. EPA is going to have an educational webinar on August 3rd of 2020. They just released guidelines for the Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Grant, and those guidelines are posted. The application deadline is September 22nd. It is one grant of $600,000. There's a 3-year project period, and actually this grant is up to $200,000. That's a typo there. So they will have an educational webinar on August the 6th of 2020. Whenever these guidelines are released, EPA usually follows it up with a webinar saying specifically what they would like to see in these applications. I highly recommend, if you're interested in these applications, that you attend those EPA educational webinars, because that is from the horse's mouth, so to speak. These are the people that review these applications, and they will tell you specific things to look for. So imagine if you're taking a test and this is the test review. These educational webinars are the test review, where you get told basically what's going to be on the test. So they will emphasize whatever is important to get that funding. So I encourage you to attend. I would like to mention the National Brownfield Conference. The 2021 conference will be in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and it's still being planned as we speak, and we hope to all be able to join together again in April in person. So the request for session proposals is open and abstracts must be received by August the 24th. We at the state Kentucky program would like to see Kentucky well represented at the national conference. If you're a current grantee, EPA highly encourages you to attend as well using some of your award funding. So please submit your great ideas for sharing our brownfield success. So I wanted to announce that coming soon, if any of you all, I know we have some ad districts on here, if you have attended one of our in-person grant writing workshops in the past, our method has been to travel around regionally and conduct these brownfield grant writing workshops. They're full of those tips and tricks that I told you about that we've learned. All of our experience is pretty much wrapped up into this workshop. We are furiously working behind the scenes to record a virtual format. Everything we present in person will be recorded in short, digestible videos, and it will follow the grant application section by section, and it will be available on a learning management system where you can view and review whichever section as you need to. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible. I like to make things, when I do education and outreach, I like to do them from a Kentucky perspective. So you will be able to listen to the EPA webinars and get their expertise, and then we will present things from a Kentucky perspective and help you in that area. And hopefully together, we'll submit really strong proposals and really help to get some money into Kentucky from the federal EPA. I will take a moment to advertise our newsletter. We have a newsletter called Kentucky Brownfield Bits. Just here recently, I've been releasing one about every week, and that's just to gear us up for grant season because grant season is so intensive, and I don't really have a way of coming and seeing you face to face. So this is my way of outreach right now, and this is the way we're going to communicate any grant announcements, funding opportunities, new resources that us or other great organizations come up with, and important information that you need to know. So if you are on this newsletter, awesome. And if you would like to sign up, you're not getting this from us. Normally it's just once a month. I try to put everything in a really nice condensed format once a month, but when we have our busier seasons, I do special editions, and we just got through our grant special edition. I will be sending one out when the guidelines are released, and when we have award announcements, stuff like that, you'll see a little more than usual, more than once a month. But this is just a way to, and we have many great organizations in Kentucky. If I hear of grant funding opportunities, that kind of thing. So it's just a way for me to communicate those things in one place about brownfield properties. So actually, here in the next little bit, we'll be releasing a newsletter that will have this webinar recording on it, and it will also have a chance for you to sign up for some live office hours. Since we can't be one-on-one with you guys in your community, we're going to have some office hours that you can sign up for one or more sessions, however many you want to. Show up for everyone if you want. We're just going to have those on a weekly basis, probably starting next week or so, and we'll just be hanging out, Eric and I, and here to answer specific things or even just walk through the application process with you. That is our way to be there for you and help you. Otherwise, if you prefer, email is a really great way to reach us for assistance. You can shoot us an email at any time, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So at this point, here's a little contact information, but I'm going to switch gears over here and hopefully navigate to our new Brownfield grant writing workshop page. I'll give you a good tour of that. So let me finish this out here and I'll switch over. Many of you may have seen this page. This is our energy and environment cabinet page. I'm going to take you through here. I want to be able for you to see clearly. This is my little dot. We're going to start with environmental protection. Okay, maybe I can't click with my dot, so hold on. I think you can see my arrow. And we get highlighted tabs, so that's great. So start with our environmental protection page from our main website page. Then I'm going to take you to the Brownfields tab. They have done us a solid and put us up here where we can be easily found. And then once we navigate to the Brownfield page, I'm going to scroll you down to our Brownfield Program Services, and this is Grant Writing Assistance. So here is where we're going to have all of our Kentucky related resources, and I'm going to guide you here every time. Probably if you have specific questions, I'll probably send you links from this page. First off, you will see we'll have a webinar recording of what we're doing today in case you need to reference this back. This top section is general brownfield information, and I've basically curated different resources and put the best ones up here for you. So if you go through these and just look, you have a question, I think any answer can be found. This Brownfield 101 will take you through, like it says, 101, in-depth Brownfield program information. It's done by our New Jersey Institute of Technology tab assistants, and it's done very well. Of course, there's a link to the types of Brownfield grant funding, and from there, that's an EPA website, so you can get more specific details on any of the grants that you're interested in. I would direct you, if you are signing up this year, please, please, please start with these two links. If you do not have a SAM account or you do not have a registration on grants.gov, that is your #1 priority right now. We have had many applicants get bumped or not get funding last minute because they could not access these accounts, and you really need access to these accounts. So that's your first stop if you're going to apply this year. This grant writing guide from the Kentucky League of Cities was recently released, and it is amazing. So if you like just a really great sit down and read PDF, this is a really great guide to go through. And it's from the perspective of a city. So I think it speaks a lot of your language, and it gives you some really good tips and tricks. I will secondly direct you to this National Tab Easy overview and grant writing tips. This was also done by our tab providers. There are regional tab providers, so there are different providers for each region. The Tab Easy tool is actually done by Kansas State University. You will need an account, like you will set up an account to get access to this tool. But if you're going to sign up for any Brownfield grants, I highly, highly, highly recommend this. Once you get into this tool, it is the Brownfield grant application. You specify which one you want, assessment, cleanup, multipurpose, whatever. It takes you through the application. It gives you each section for you to write your narrative into. It gives you tips as you write your narrative, and it will have little bump outs that if you're confused about what exactly the application is asking for, it will explain that for you. So start first with this webinar that explains and gives you a general overview and how to apply for an account, and then go to the actual tool and play around with it. Multiple people can go into this account that you create, and you can save your grants from year to year. So if you had a grant that did not make it last year and you have it in this system, and then you get feedback from EPA saying that you only had one section that wasn't that great, that you needed to improve, you can go back to that, you can improve that section, and boom, you're done. So we have had people be very successful just doing that process, and I think it's amazing. So I highly recommend that you guys check out this grant writing tool. Then we have a section about our technical assistance. It's got our Kentucky State program services that we went over there before. If you need refresher on that, the NJ IT tab is, of course. There's actually a webinar from EPA about our tab assistance if you want to learn more about that. And then the Brownfield's page for our technical assistance training and research. We have a lot of good entities in Kentucky, like the University of Louisville, that's done some research on brownfields. So this is a good place to look for that. Here is where I will put the grant writing workshop when we've got that all cleaned up and ready to go. That's where that will live. Under this grant writing application video, we start going through resources that are divided out by the EPA grant application section. So right here under threshold, threshold is really important on the grant application because we call it a pass or a fail. So you either get in or you don't with the threshold criteria alone. So this is a very important section. We don't want you to fail this part. We want you to get onto the ranking criteria where you can get the points and have a solid proposal. Something that is required by all applications is this request for Kentucky State Letter of Support. That is from us. This is the application you will need to fill out, and you submit it to us, and we will put a letter on our letterhead and give that back to you for your grant application. It's a way for us to be notified of people who are going to apply and what they're applying for. So as we scroll down here, there are some really great, like I said, as an outreach coordinator, I try to make things as Kentucky specific as possible, so it's easy for you to find the data that you need for your communities. I've tried to focus on really good, so there's League of Cities, there's county data from University of Kentucky here. There is also this really great page that's a county resource page for COVID-19 information that's going to be really important, like I said, this year. So if you see something on here that you're looking for and you need a really good resource for it, please let me know, because you're probably not alone. And I try to think from a community or a city or a nonprofit perspective, but I am limited even in myself. So if there's something that you do not see on here that you would like to see on here, please shoot me an email and I'll get that up for you as soon as I can, because there's a lot of great resources out there. So here's the community engagement and partnerships section I was talking about. I will put any resources that are great that I find that address how you can creatively still engage with communities virtually. I'll start putting those up there starting next week. So look for that to happen. And again, this is other sections of the grant. This is the part I was talking about where if you don't have capability and past performance, there's a lot of resources on here about leveraging brownfield resource or leveraging funding for brownfields. The program guide, the 2019 guide that EPA puts out, gives you an overview of all the funding opportunities that relate to brownfield program funding. So you may be a community who's already received grants from economic development or transportation, and you didn't know these were things that you can put in to establish capability and success in past performance. But these are things. So take some time to go through this, because a lot of our communities get really dinged in this area, and we want you to be strong. So under the Kentucky, we start going into our Kentucky specific information for the Brownfield program. So I started out with successful grants. These are actual grant applications that have been awarded in the past. The one caveat I will tell you is that a few years ago, the Brownfield guideline, the grant guidelines changed with the BUILD Act. We had a lot of changes in the guideline format and what EPA wanted. So these are really great examples for wording or how people describe their communities and what was going on with health and the brownfield sites and potential dangers, crime, jobs, all the different things. So these are really good to look at narrative, to look at wording, to look at those for ideas, but not great as far as, you know, copy word for word formatting. And don't look at it from a formatting or that kind of perspective. Look at it in the meat and potatoes kind of perspective of ideas of how you can present your community to EPA. Then that is followed by the brownfields in Kentucky. These are links to any of our past grantees who have active brownfield program pages. So if you want to see how this funding has been used and how people are communicating to the public about brownfield funding, there are just a lot of these people, they've gotten assessment grants. Louisville Metro has a revolving loan fund. So if you're interested in just seeing, this is where I'm going to put links to this information. If you are a past grantee and you have a page that has information about how you've used your brownfield funding and you're not listed here, please let me know. I want to add you to this list. And then at the very end here, I've got some United States data, some links to that. This is where I will let everyone know who is interested in applying for this grant that this is a national grant competition. We try to be really strong as a region in these applications, but it is very competitive. And the reality is you may submit a grant application and someone in Portland, Oregon is reading this application and they have no clue where Frankfort, Kentucky is or what that even looks like. And then you're also comparing your county and your city and your state data with the national data, and you kind of need to have that umbrella perspective because it is a national competition. So here is some national data sources. Again, I will put more as I find really good sources for you guys, and you can reference that here. So I will scroll up, hopefully not too fast to make you guys dizzy, but I will scroll up here and kind of land on this staff contacts. This is the shortcut to all of our email addresses and our phone numbers. A lot of our phone numbers are going to email right now due to where most of us are on pretty much 100% work from home still. So definitely hop on those live office hours or shoot us an email through this page. If you do call us, like I said, it will email us, but please leave an email contact information for you so that we can get back to you as fast as we can. I will also say here that I know everything's been pretty hard, so let us know from an outreach engagement perspective, you know, your communities and how they're doing, and how even if you're a current grantee, please reach out to us about how you're trying to manage or figure out how to manage these grant or the grant award money that you have been given. And because I know a lot of plans are shifting and changing, and we're all just being very, very flexible right now on a daily basis even. So please reach out to us. We're here to help you. We've been working from home this entire time, so we haven't gone away And we've heard from a lot of communities, and we're happy that you're still using us and still going forward. So a lot of funding, I don't know if you've heard, but on the federal level, there's a lot of funding coming to support communities. So we want to make these applications as strong as possible to get our communities back up and running as good as we can. So we're going to switch gears now again. We're going to move into our question and answer portion of our webinar here. The instructions I will give you, I think there's a way to raise your hand. If you physically want to talk, we can see you and just raise your hand and I can unmute you so that you can speak. Otherwise, put your questions into the chat box for us to answer, and we will take it from there.
We were hoping that a couple of representatives from the New Jersey Institute of Technology would join us today. They had another meeting. They did not join us. We were going to let them give their own little spill. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because, oh, yeah, hang on. Here I come. They were busy, unfortunately. It'd have been nice if they could have talked to you about what their services are. I want to go back and reiterate the need to let them review your applications when you get there. They're hired specifically by EPA to do just that for nothing. All right, it doesn't cost you anything other than a little time to send them an email. Last year, we had less than half of our applicants actually send an application to NJIT to review. I would love for us to have a 100% review of every application. We had 11 applicants last year, and 5 of them sent their applications to have NJIT review them. Elizabeth told you this was a nationwide competition. Many times, if you lose 1 or 2 points on an application, you're not going to win. Okay, it's very important to get as many points as possible. And she also told you that somebody in Portland, Oregon, who has no idea of Frankfort, Kentucky, may be reviewing your application. So this is the part that gets really tough when you're asking for a lot of money. And every region wants it. There's only so much to go around. We got really lucky this year with the awardees that we got, and we want to continue that success in the next year. So use us, utilize NJIT, and hopefully we'll get some strong grant applications sent up. I'm looking at the list of attendees. I know there's some of you all that have applied before. I'm assuming there's some of you all that have not applied. But if you have any questions at this point, let us know. We'd like to hear from you and discuss this. Let me leave you with one story, because Elizabeth talked about how important it was to get registered on those websites. There was a fantastic program that was going to be applied for last year. It would have involved 3 EPA regions and 3 states for Habitat for Humanity. Fantastic, fantastic project that they had set up. At the very last minute, that application did not get submitted to EPA because of an account problem and getting signed in. So like literally at midnight, the night those applications were due, this group and the consultant was struggling to get this stuff submitted, and they failed. Likely they will apply this year. I personally feel like they probably will get it, because there's not many projects that can span 3 regions and 3 states and do the good they were wanting to do. So don't let that happen to you. Go ahead and sign up and get those things ready now, so that when midnight comes, you don't have to scramble to get signed up. So, okay, are there any questions? So far, we see none. That means you tuned out, or we were spectacular. Okay, last call. Questions or comments? Any discussion? All right. See no hands raised or questions typed in the chat. I believe we can close it out, Elizabeth.
Thank you guys for joining us today. We will definitely.
One question.
We got one. Oh,
Uh, okay, hang on. Um, okay, so we had an attendee ask if we are going to get a copy of this webinar.
yes. So that page that I just showed you, basically, we will embed the video there. We will also be putting this in our newsletter. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, shoot me an email and I can also give you a link that way to when we get the video embedded on our website. You will be able to have this for reference and review.
Very good. Any other questions? Going once?
I think we have one from,
Good.
oh, okay, just comments. We're seeing really good comments.
Thank you for the, we appreciate it, letting us know that you think we did a good job, and you're welcome for answering the question.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Just be in touch with us if you guys have any needs. We're here for you and ready to help you through this. So stay tuned. Well, we hope you guys have a great afternoon. We're going to wrap it up. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.